Welcome to the Robert Hunt Financial Market Update. It's your host, Robert Hunt, where I look at the week's financial news that can be a bit confusing, misleading, and take you off course, help to make it actionable, understandable, and clear. What a week. What a week. And therefore, what a show. We are terrestrial on this week's episode. We got off the water. Hope the show still is good on land for you. Excellent data to discuss. We're going to look at the big, beautiful bill that the GOP and Mr. Donald Trump himself passed and the implications for your investments. How should we think about this potential large increase in the debt? We're also going to be doing a journey in artificial intelligence, how it was used this week. It keeps getting better. And I actually learned from a client about a new way to apply the technology I think you'll find interesting. I then have a very interesting article about Roth IRAs for children and a way to get around some of the difficulties that can come with those Roth IRAs for children, particularly the paperwork behind them. Friend of the show, Harrison Alley, really set us up for success here. And then we end with just one of our favorite type of articles, a review, kind of a year-to-date review on all the challenges inherent in investing and all the rewards for those of you who are able to hang on till the bitter end. Of course, it's not the end. It's just July 3rd, almost 4th. Happy Independence Day. Let's start at the top. This big, beautiful bill. If you've been listening to the news at all, or watching, as you probably do, you probably don't listen as much, but if you've been plugged into the news, you've seen that there's been a real effort by the grand old party of the GOP to push through this new, big, beautiful bill, as President Donald Trump calls it, with the detractors, Mr. Elon Musk, Thomas Massey, and others, warning us about the implication of adding more and more to the national debt. Mr. Ray Dalio on the X.com platform, via a prolific text group I'm in, I received this. He gives us a bit of a summation on what's going to occur on the debt side. And we're taking Ray's advice. I have not read the, 910 page, I forget the exact size of the bill, but it's big. It's going to be spending of about $7 trillion a year. We only bring in 5. So we can do the math. That's $2 trillion a year shortfall. Today, he explains there's about a debt of $230,000 per family over the next 10 years, based on this bill and his opinion. It's going to be up to $425,000 per family. So he sees about 18 trillion increase over a decade. And then he warns us. He says this is really bad for bonds. This is really bad not just for bonds, U.S. Treasury bonds, but this means it's bad for everybody because the U.S. Treasury bond, I believe he's right here, is the backbone of the global financial system. So these are harrowing statements here, but we must look it in the eye. He says very few ways out of this outside of reducing spending tremendously, increasing taxes tremendously, or runaway inflation. His warning shot at the very end here, he says big, painful disruptions will likely occur. Now, Mr. Dalio, this is not the first time he has sought to warn investors about the various dangers inherent with a government that spends more than it brings in, and the burden that can place on the populace. Now, the response to this for many is, okay, the U.S. dollar in their mind is going to drop, and I need to be buying gold or Bitcoin or some other hard asset because that is the best way to get out of this. Now, what I find interesting, and they may be right, no surprise, I'm not changing from my index funds, but what I find interesting is, well, how did the stock market respond? You ever wondered that? I'm an efficient market theorist, so I look to markets quite a bit. Up today, the big beautiful bill passes, stock market's up a little under 1%. Market didn't hate it. International market's up a little bit, 0.2% or so. So I think there are inherent dangers in catastrophizing the debt. I think it could be as bad as Mr. Dalio says. I just don't know. I don't know. They've been saying it'll be bad for a long time. And going back to the 70s, that was the first dollar crisis. We delinked from gold, and everybody and their brother thought hard assets. We must get a hold of hard assets. Ditch stocks. Oh, who would want to see stocks? 1970s, you couldn't look at a stock without just burning your eyes. They were so undesirable. Unclean, they would say. And that ended up being one of the best times ever, if you go back to our Mr. Jerry Buss story, to buy stocks, 1979. That would have been a great entry point. And a bit of, I almost forgot. I had a friend of the show after our podcast last week when I was explaining that Jerry Buss would have done better had he simply bought, instead of $67 million in the Lakers, he would have done $67 million in the S&P 500. What a lot of the math didn't show is it would have been $13 billion with the index fund, $10 billion with the Lakers. But there were cash calls to the Lakers, almost assuredly. So the index probably did even better because for the longest time, and even increasingly today, those NBA teams are not cash flowing. The owners are making their money the way you make money buying art. It just appreciates in value. It's a scarce asset. So it's possible that index fund did even better. I go back to that time period just to remind us that it's productive assets over the long haul that do well. Gold will have its day in the sun, and apparently Bitcoin is going to just be good forever. I'm not quite sure when that'll change. I'm not investing, but the data speaks for itself. But don't you remember the data, 1800 to present? $1 put in gold. You remember that? Turned into $4. Not a big move. Now you could argue, we really didn't experience big time inflation until the 70s, and I hear you, but Mr. Warren Buffett, who in many ways can be our North Star, it's just not a productive asset. Bitcoin, not a productive asset. So there will be seasons, to be sure, where those assets, they go up quite a bit. You really want to find something you can invest in for the long haul, because we like that investment horizon to be long. So I think you will probably see a whole lot of warnings from people other than Mr. Ray Dalio about the cataclysmic national debt. And it may be, but I'm going to stick with productive assets, come what may. Because I see the historic data and I see it is a preferable place to be that doesn't involve you and I having our hand on the joystick and knowing when to pull the trigger. I hate those investment plans where you better buy in right time. Better sell at the right time. You remember Hank Paulson, the great, I believe it's Hank Paulson, the great hedge funder who went big in gold in 2016. And he's been proved right, but boy, maybe he went earlier than that. But he just sat in gold as it traded flat for 4 years. Oh, that's hard. Very hard to stick with. So let's stick with our productive assets. Let's talk artificial intelligence now. I was educated by a client. I never even thought about this. Hey, why don't you just upload statements to the AI? Now, I had heard about this, and I was a little worried about privacy of data. So I did a little research this week on data privacy in these AI models, particularly with Gemini, which is Google's model. And their promise, now of course I realize it's their promise, but their promise to me is that my data is secure on their Gemini as it is on Google Docs or Gmail. So if I'm comfortable with Gmail or Google Docs, then I should be comfortable with Gemini. Now, I don't. We're early, I know, and maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but I'm choosing to trust it. So I said, hey, let's give it a run. Let's throw in a brokerage statement and start asking it questions. So a PDF file, throw it in. I said, let's have at it. Create a scenario and I plugged in, I gave it a brokerage statement that held various securities of different cost bases and different unrealized capital gains. I said, in the most tax efficient way possible, sell certain amount of securities, okay? Boom. I did it with 2.5 flash first, Gemini 2.5 flash. That's their quicker model. It came back and had a few errors. This is a bummer. Okay, well, let's try 2.5 Pro. That's really designed for these sort of tasks. So I uploaded 2.5 Pro, Google's latest model. comes out really good. Made one clerical error, and it was a vision error. It read the PDF wrong. All of its math was correct. So in 1 second, this is a task I do for people, and literally, it did it in maybe not 1 second, maybe 8 seconds. It came through, had a Google sheet I could export to that showed all the buy sell stuff. I did a little cleaning up, formatting. That was it. It was good, listener. The AI can do this stuff. And this is, so I did it manually. And then I had the AI do it. So I was checking the AI. I was treating the AI like an intern, kind of like, okay, hey, give this a go. Let me see how you do. I'll look at it. But knowing that I full well needed to own the work. And it performed well. It performed like an analyst. It performed as well as an analyst would. It missed on a vision thing that I think, that's too bad. But what I can see is it's only going to get better. It's not going to get worse from here. The AI will only get better. So I have high expectations, very high expectations for what. So just know that your financial advisor, I'm going to be leaning into this. I see this as only an analyst that'll only get better and better, and that should speed me up, which is good value for you. And I brought in a special guest for this next segment. I'll let him introduce himself. Who are you, sir?
This is Bobby Hunt.
Thank you, Bobby Hunt, for coming into studio. How old are you, sir?
7.
Do you know a lot about investing?
Kind of.
I think kind of is fair. So we've got this half more, and it is what's called a Kiddie Roth IRA facilitator. Do you know what a Kiddie Roth IRA is, Bob?
No.
I'm glad you're listening or participating. It is a way for children to fund Roth IRAs with actual earned income. A parent can't just put or gift money into a Roth IRA. Roth IRA being an account where the money is taxable on the front end. You put in taxable dollars, but it grows tax-free and can be drawn tax-free. It's one of the best wealth-building tools for a child. There's this service now, Half More, that does all the back of the house messy paperwork that can be associated with this, which is why a lot of parents don't try it. Again, not a sponsored podcast, but I found it interesting enough to mention to you because oftentimes when I mention a kid Roth IRA, sometimes people think, oh, gee whiz, I gotta notate the actual hours worked, what they made. This is a service that helps with that. You can also do it yourself. So I was reviewing this thinking, oh man, $10 a month up to 5 children per family. It does a lot of it for you, but I think maybe you could do it yourself. In many ways, it's just a good reminder that this option exists. If your child does meaningful work they're paid for, you're able to match it and put it into a Roth IRA, and that helps the child quite a bit. And in my advisory practice, I've met with folks on the first meeting. They're young and they have big Roth IRAs, and I'll ask, what's the genesis of this? And it's usually a father with foresight who matched their household chore money. Because, Bob, do you make money?
Yes.
How do you make money?
Doing chores.
Attaboy. So when you make that money, you can throw it in this investment account, and it works. Now, as you know, we've got a moniker around here to keep your
Cost low.
Keep your investing
Simple.
Keep your time horizon
Long.
because that's what's going to give you the best shot in your investing journey. Well, there was an article by CNBC that came out titled "Keeping a Cool Head Paid Off for Investors." This is by Lim Hugh. Probably listens to our show. And subheadline says the S&P and NASDAQ are hitting fresh highs. This is Tuesday, July 1st. And it just goes through all the calamity that happened in the first half of the year. We had a new president in the Oval Office. He upended global trade. A president in South Korea was removed from office. Conflicts broke out between India and Pakistan, as well as Israel and Iran, along with the U.S. airstrike thrown in the mix. China had an AI startup, DeepSeek, that made its debut. A lot happened that would have perhaps spooked a lot of different capital allocators and investors. But did you know stock market's been doing just fine? The article explains as of Monday, hitting all-time highs, up about 5% to date. Both the S&P 500 and NASDAQ. International is doing better. It says in Europe, the stock 600 is up 6.7, and Hong Kong and South Korea are up 20% gain for the year. I think it's a little confusing. It's a little simpler to talk about the international index in totality, and that one is up 18.12% for the year. So imagine that international stocks up 18.12%, and U.S. stocks up 6.5%. All that occurring in a calamitous news environment. Sometimes listening to the news is just not helpful, is it? And I've found that in any given year where you're a long-term investor, there's going to be a pretty compelling reason to sell. Someone intelligent, Mr. Ray Dalio, who we introduced at the beginning of the show, is going to tell you this is it. This is the big one. Look over the cliff. There's nothing there. No hope for you now. Better abandon orthodoxy with regards to your investing and just jump on some brand new bandwagon. But we're not going to do that here at the Robert Hunt Financial Market Update. What are we going to do, Bob? What are we going to do?
Keep our costs low, keep our investing simple, keep our time horizon long.
Clap, clap, because that is what's going to give us the best shot on our investing journey.
Till next time.
Happy 4th of July.